All right, with me now, Scotty Nehring. She's the chief political correspondent for USA Radio Network. She's also a Trump supporter. I'm also joined by Ron Nehring. He's the California state chairman for the Ted Cruz campaign. Welcome to both of you.
Good morning.
Good morning. So Ron, Mr. Trump said on Good Morning America just about 2 hours ago that Ted Cruz is a liar, that his Iowa win should be rescinded, that he's Canadian and not eligible to run for president. Your thoughts?
I think that whenever Donald Trump gets into trouble, he just turns more and more kind of extreme and erratic in terms of many of the things that he says. Who knows what he's going to wind up saying by the time the Saturday vote comes around. Look, Donald Trump has a long history, 60-year history of being a New York City liberal. Now he decides he wants to run for president. Now he decides that he's a Republican, so he's trying to reinvent himself. He's not doing a good job. Everyone has an opinion about him. Most Republicans do not support Donald Trump. 70% plus of Republicans don't support him. That helps him in a six-way race, but when this comes down to a two-way race between Ted Cruz and Donald Trump, he's in a lot of trouble. He knows that. So he's going to continue to say weirder and weirder things as the election approaches to try to distract people from his true record as a New York City liberal.
Scotty, Mr. Trump is threatening to file a lawsuit if Cruz does not admit to lying. Is Senator Cruz lawyering up?
Well, I don't know if Senator Cruz is, but I'll tell you, Mr. Trump is tired of it. This is the difference of the status quo of the past that we're dealing with today. You know, when you look at the accusation that Mr. Trump is lying and that he's not being truthful, go over and look at what Senator Cruz has been. I mean, just prior to December 15th, he was the person saying that we needed to stay out of Syria. Then all of a sudden he wants to carpet bomb them. And then you sit there and you take these ads that he put out, and he's taking edited clips of Mr. Trump talking about Planned Parenthood, where he says it's a typical liberal line to say that abortion's the only thing that deals with women's health. And Mr. Trump's pointing out there are great things that Planned Parenthood does, except if there is abortions being involved or the selling of body parts, or baby parts, then they need to be defunded. So it's amazing how Senator Cruz has just literally become kind of like the left and selectively picked out what parts he wants to say and doesn't necessarily give the whole truth, which makes him be the real liar on the stage at this point.
Okay, so both candidates are calling one another liars. Ron, how does this help the voters understand where these candidates stand on the issues, or don't issues matter at this point?
Well, I think issues are very important. As a matter of fact, we need a president who's going to go to Washington, challenge the status quo, just as Senator Cruz has, and challenge the corruption in both parties in Washington, D.C., and that's why your record really is important. I think what Donald Trump is most upset about is the fact that Senator Cruz is not making this up. Senator Cruz's ads and his recitations are exactly of Donald Trump's own words. Unfortunately for Donald Trump, most of those words come from before he decided to run for president, or he decided to reinvent himself and recast himself as something else. And that's what I think Donald Trump is most upset about. And when he talks about going to court, you know, it's really a very liberal notion that when the American people don't do what he wants them to do, that he'll try to turn to a judge to get his way anyway. This is not unlike what he did with respect to attacking the Republican National Committee, because he got booed by so many people who were in that debate audience in South Carolina. The Trump campaign simply didn't do a good job organizing their people. They can't take responsibility for that, and so they have to blame somebody else.
That's a lie right there. You know that's a lie.
It's just ridiculous.
That is
Every
a lie.
candidate at that South Carolina debate got 100 tickets. The Trump people didn't organize. Everybody else in that audience was upset with many of the ridiculous things that Donald Trump had said.
Let me ask you this, Scotty. When the top two GOP candidates, one is calling the other a liar, and the other one is basically saying, I know you are, but what am I? What is this doing for the GOP as a whole? Isn't it tarnishing the entire Republican Party with a negative brush?
Carol, you are absolutely correct in that, and that's what I'm worried about in the long game, and I think that's Mr. Trump's strategy in this. And yes, he's trying to sit there and reduce the damage that Senator Cruz is doing to both him and other campaigns by the lies that he's spreading. But I think you're right. It's that long-term game, and how are you going to sit there and go against the Democrats when you've disenfranchised the majority of your base? It's a catch-22 right now, and this is why what Senator Cruz is doing is so dangerous. Because if he would just sit there and stick to the truth, or more importantly, his campaign stick to the truth, you wouldn't have Mr. Trump or Marco Rubio or Dr. Carson having to point out that this is a continued pattern of the Ted Cruz campaign to smear, and then him go on TV with a smile on his face and say, what? I'm the victim here. The victim is the card that the Republicans are tired of playing, and when you look at records like voting for TPA, when you look at records for voting for the Corker Amendment to the Iran bill, etc., all these things, Senator Cruz doesn't have as conservative record as he likes to sell in his push cards or by his people.
All right, I have to leave it there. Thanks to both of you, Scotty Nehring, Ron Nehring.